This is December the 7th, 2021. This is the 80th anniversary of the start of the Second World War. The United States of America was attacked by the Imperial Japanese Navy at Pearl Harbor. And a few days later, we declared war on Japan. Nazi Germany declared war on us, and the Second World War was in full bloom. Also, I want to say that I appreciate the efforts of Dina and Jeffrey to make this video for posterity. So that's my parents' family. My father was he didn't graduate from high school. He worked for the Reading Railroad during the First World War in their postal department. He was moving stuff around, mail bags and stuff. And then he and my Uncle Charlie, who was Aunt Helen's husband, went into the clothing business. They had a small clothing store, and they sold some new clothing, some used clothing, and they made a living. It was not anything sensational, but they managed to eke out a living. And my brother and I had never wanted for anything, but we certainly did not come from a typical American middle-class family. This was during the Depression, which started in 1929, 1930, lasted up until actually after the Second World War. But and the war, ironically, saved the economy in this country, because during the 30s there was a Great Depression. Millions of people were out of work. The economy was in the doldrums, and as a result of the war, there was a lot of money pumped into the economy. A lot of women got jobs, and this led to the prosperity at the end of the war. I don't know, what else you have? Any specific questions
About your family? Well, tell us more about Betty and what her personality was like, what she did when she was...
Yeah, well, let me start with my father first. My father was a very kind man. He was a reticent man, didn't say a lot. He had a good sense of humor. And when he said something, it was important to listen. He worked like a dog. They worked, their store was open 6 days a week, and for many years, 3 nights a week, like Wednesday night and Friday night and Saturday night. So they really worked very, very hard. And I really didn't see him that much because he was working most of the time. Remember when I was going to high school, he took me to school, because I went to Central High, which was in North Philadelphia, and he drove there. Uncle Charlie went with him because they both lived. They had one car. They couldn't afford 2 cars, so they had one car. The family shared one car, and for the high school years, Myron Schneeberg, who was my best friend, he jumped in the back of the car too and got a ride to school every morning. My mother was a beautiful woman, and she wanted the best for us. She knew the difference between educated and uneducated, and she wanted us to be educated, make sure that we got a good education. I remember she got me a job in camp one summer. She called the owner of the camp and laid it on him, and I got a job in the camp. As I said, she never graduated from high school either. She was born in Russia. She came here around 1906 when she was 3 or 4 years old. She remembers going to Ellis Island, where many years later we donated a plaque in Ellis Island. That was where the immigrants came, and the whole family went. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all went with, and there was a reporter from the Philadelphia Inquirer who went with us, who was a friend of Melvin, And he wrote a story, a front page story, which was in the Inquirer, and we have the story and some pictures and so forth. But I guess it's just, in the DNA that some people are funny and some people aren't. I think Phyllis, my wife, she's got a good sense of humor. And Jeffrey and Dina, they both have a good sense of humor.
Terrific.
So, terrific sense of humor. And I think it's important that, you lighten up a little bit, because in life there are a lot of bumps in the road, and unless you can cope with them and, put them in proper perspective, you're going to be unhappy. And unhappy is not good. Because, I've said this many times. In life, you only go around once. But if you do it right, once is enough. So do it right. I like to use humor in my teaching. Actually, I had I'll talk about teaching for a bit with the humor, because I sort of had a second career as a teacher. When I taught while I was working as a lawyer, I taught a year or two at Temple Law School. I taught a course on public utility law, because I was house counsel for what was then Bella, Pennsylvania. And I taught at Temple. And I also taught at the Paralegal Institute. There was a Paralegal Institute started by a couple of lawyers in town here to teach paralegals, some people who help lawyers. It's like a physician's assistant only in the legal field. So I taught some courses for them. And I found that I liked teaching. And when I retired, I decided to do a little more teaching. So I taught at Penn State. I taught some courses for the Philadelphia Bar Association, and then I taught at OLLI, which is the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. I was not a teacher, but a guide at the University of Pennsylvania Museum for many years. I did Egypt and Palestine and other stuff. It was interesting. So in my law school courses, I teach a lot of courses on law. I always try to inject a little humor. I teach a course on trials in a movie, like My Cousin Vinny, which is a historical movie. I use that, and I use some other stuff from some other stuff. But humor is good medicine. Good medicine. I always was interested in travel to find out what's going on around the world, because I think it gives you a whole different perspective. If you know what's happening in other places, you can compare, and you find out that other people are smart and they're doing things that maybe you should be doing. So we traveled quite a bit, especially after I retired. Before then, we had to get 2 kids through college, and they went to camp, tennis camp, regular camp. In any event, we started traveling with our friends, Myrna and Howard Asher, and Shelley and Saul Zalesny, and who was the other ones? Myrna, Howard, and the Schneebergs, Helen and Myron Schneeberg. And so I remember the first trip I arranged. We went to Greece during they had a junta that was running the country. So I found a trip for 7 days to Greece. It was $299 for everything: plane fare, hotels, tours. We went. We had a good time. We started to go. We went on other trips to New York. We went one time. We rented a little houseboat on the Chesapeake, and we had a lot of good times together and enjoyed a lot of things. But as time went on, I said to Phyllis, you know what? If we keep going with our friends, You ladies, all you do is sit around and talk about the kids, and we sit around talking about the sports, and that's not going to cut it. So we decided to start going on trips on our own, and we started going. We went to London and Paris, and we covered all 7 continents. We were in Africa, we were in China, we were in India, went to Antarctica. And we met a lot of interesting people along the way and had a lot of special memories. My memories, we went to Israel. We've been to Israel 4 or 5 times. Once we went with Jeffrey and his family. We also took each of our grandchildren on their own trip. We took Ben to London for his bar mitzvah. We took Noah to Venice and Florence, and we took Sophia to Paris. Coleman and Owen we took to Israel as for a bar mitzvah trip. Phyllis was very instrumental in making sure that Coleman and Owen had bar mitzvah training, had a bar mitzvah, and that they understand that they are Jewish, which is very important to us. A lot of the trips we took, we started after going on these group tours, mostly with people we didn't know. We started to go on cruises. We had some very interesting cruises. One was from Sydney, Australia to Bangkok, India. It was about 20 days on a beautiful boat, beautiful ship. Met a lot of nice people, stopped in some interesting places. We took some boat trips in Europe. We took a trip on the Rhone and the Saône in France. And then we took a trip later on from Berlin to Krakow. We stopped in Nuremberg, saw the place where they had the Nuremberg war trials, which I was very interested in because I taught some courses about that. And went to Egypt. I remember in Egypt, I was on a camel, and the camel decided to take a run with me on it. And I was a little scared, but finally the camel calmed down and I was able to get off. But I do remember looking at that large pyramid in Egypt and thinking to myself, this thing has been here for like 4,000 or 5,000 years, and how they built this thing with no modern tools. I used to call Coleman and Owen Bunky and Sparky. I can't remember which was which, but and my wife, I have many names for my wife. I call her Jim, I call her Chuckles, I call her Fluffy, I call her a lot of stuff. My children, I can't remember the pet names that I had for my children. Do we know any pet names for my?
Now mine is my darling.
Oh, now when Dina calls, which is quite often, I refer to as, yes, my darling daughter. I've lived a long, healthy, happy, prosperous life. I'm very grateful. I believe in God, and I'm very grateful to God for granting that to me. I married and had nice parents, a brother, family, married my wife. That turned out to be a very, very successful, happy marriage. I'm Jewish. I'm proud to be Jewish. I look back over the centuries, all the advancements, all of the contributions that Jews have made to the world throughout the centuries. I'm very proud of that. I'm hoping that my children and grandchildren will carry on the Jewish tradition, maybe not the way I did, but in their own fashion. It's very important to me, and I know it's important to Phyllis, that they do that. I don't know how much longer that I'm going to be here, but I hope I can be around enough at least to see Coleman and Owen graduate from high school. Maybe one of my granddaughters or grandson get married, which would be very important to me. And I just hope that people will remember me as being a good person, as being a mensch, because I hope that's the hope I have for I know my children are mensches, and I'm sure my grandchildren are mensches, and I hope that we just keep perpetuating the mensch, the mensch population, because it's decreasing all over the world, and we need more mensches to carry on. So I say, I don't never say goodbye. I always say so long, and I believe in an afterlife of some sort. I'm not sure exactly what, so I'm hoping that we will meet again. And I love you all, and be well. So I want to add some things to my video that I neglected to mention before. One big thing was about the various places that we stayed. In addition to all the trips that we took, we had a place at the Village of the Four Seasons many years ago that we shared with Shelley and Saul Zalesny. We were there for several years, and then later on, when Jeffrey grew up, he bought a place there, and he has a place there now, a beautiful house right on the lake. And he and his family enjoy skiing and enjoy the summer activities, and it's still a very wonderful place to be in. Also, we had a place in Atlantic City. We bought a house at 16 Martindale, North Martindale, with Elaine and Bob Charney. And we had that for about 10 years. It was a fixer-upper, and we fixed it up, and we had a lot of fun there, a lot of good times. And then, of course, I neglected to mention something that's been a very big part of our lives, which is the Chautauqua Institution up near Buffalo, New York. Now, we've been going there for about 45 years. It's a terrific place. They have, it's an intergenerational place. They have families that come there. They have a beautiful lake. They have golf courses, tennis courts, sailing, and they also have a wonderful lecture program. I taught there for many years. One summer I had in my class Justice Kennedy of the United States Supreme Court, who was visiting there for a lecture. I got him to come into my class. He spent about a half hour with us, and he told the story about coming back from China. He had just been in China with his wife and consulting with Chinese legal scholars, and he asked the class what movie the Chinese law students thought was most influential and impressed them. And people said 12 Angry Men or my Cousin Vinny, and he said no, Legally Blonde was the movie they thought typified the American legal system. And then the same summer, a week later, I had David McCullough come into my class. He was there speaking, and I had him come into class and talk to the folks for a few minutes. So I had a lot of good times teaching there. We got involved in the Jewish denominational house, the Everett House. Chautauqua has a lot of, in addition to all of the courses they have a theater program, a ballet program, an opera program, a resident symphony orchestra, a school for kids, a camp for kids. It's a fabulous place. Jeffrey and Lisa came up a couple of times with their kids. Dina was there with her boys, and it was really a wonderful place. We met a lot of people there. We still have good friends that we met there and we still keep in touch with. And hopefully, as I speak now, on January 21st, we have plans to go back this summer hopefully for a full season, and we're looking forward to that. The Ever Jewish Life Center is a denominational house. They have about 20 or 30 different denominational houses there: Methodist, Baptist, United Church of Christ, and Edith Everett, in honor of her husband who passed away, donated $2 million and built this wonderful facility there that is for Jewish events and all manners dealing with Jewish subjects and topics. About my teaching, I mentioned before that I taught at Temple Law School a couple of years. I also taught at Arcadia, which was originally Beaver College. They changed it to Arcadia University. I taught for several years there, and one year I got a nice honorarium as the best teacher of the year for this class for mostly senior citizens would come. I taught at OLLI, which is the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. So I had a lot of fun doing the teaching, and I still enjoy it. Unfortunately, now with this pandemic, most of it is virtual, which I don't like to do. I like to have interaction with my students. And I guess the other thing I didn't mention more in particular was my children and grandchildren. If I leave any legacy at all, it's through my children and grandchildren. I have been very fortunate to have children who are smart, good-looking, good people, successful people, and we're planting the seeds with our grandchildren to have them be the same thing, to have them be happy and healthy and productive, and become important members of the community. So having said that, I think now I have concluded this supplemental tape. And again, I want to thank Jeffrey and Dina for putting this together. And hopefully they will have some, on the final videotape, they'll have some comments from them and from my grandchildren and anybody else who wants to make a comment. So I'm signing off. As I reach 90, I'm going to start referring to myself as the Ancient One. So the Ancient One says, so long.